Mildred, Millie to everyone who knew her, stood in the doorway of their modest kitchen, her calloused hands gripping a mug of coffee that had long gone cold. At 65, she maintained the erect posture of someone who'd built a business from nothing, someone who knew the value of appearances even when bone-tired. Her cleaning service, Millie's Maids, wasn't just a company. It was her legacy, her security, her proof that a woman with a high school education and fierce determination could carve out her own piece of the American dream.
Jean, you planning to actually look at those cruise brochures tonight, or are they just for show?
Her voice carried that particular tone she used with difficult clients. Direct, businesslike, with just enough edge to demand an answer.
I'm getting to them, Millie. There's a lot to consider. Prices and dates and all that.
He cleared his throat, that nervous habit that had grown more pronounced in recent months. Eugene Miller, 67 years old, and 2 months into retirement from the Cedar Rapids Water Department, looked every bit the middle manager he'd been. Soft around the middle, thinning hair carefully combed over. The kind of man who'd spent 40 years avoiding confrontation.
We've been considering for 3 months now. The equipment upgrade can wait another few weeks if we book this trip. Lord knows we've earned it.
She moved into the living room, her keen eyes noting how Gene's phone, his personal phone, sat face down on the side table. Strange. He usually kept it in his shirt pocket.
About the equipment fund. I meant to mention there might be some delays with my pension paperwork. Nothing serious, just bureaucratic nonsense. Might affect our liquid funds for a bit.
Millie's eyes narrowed. 37 years of marriage had taught her the subtle music of Gene's lies. The way his voice pitched slightly higher. How he suddenly became interested in straightening already straight magazines.
How much of a delay are we talking about?
Oh, not long. Few weeks, maybe. You know how the city is.
She did know how the city was. She also knew Gene's pension had been processed 2 months ago. She'd seen the deposits herself when balancing their joint account last week. But something made her hold her tongue. That instinct honed from years of reading clients, employees, competitors. Later that evening, while Gene snored in his recliner, he'd taken to sleeping there, claiming his back hurt. Millie found herself in the garage, searching for the invoice from their last van repair. Gene's old tackle box sat on the shelf, covered in a fine layer of dust, except for a suspicious hand-shaped smear on the lid. Fresh. She opened it, expecting to find forgotten lures and tangled line. Instead, tucked beneath a tray of rusty hooks, she found a phone. A cheap prepaid model, the kind teenagers used to hide their activities from parents. The kind married men used for activities they wanted to hide from wives. Her hands, steady from decades of hard work, trembled slightly as she powered it on. No password. Gene had always been careless about security. The messages loaded immediately, dozens of them. Photos that made her stomach turn, not just from their explicit nature, but from the shameless enthusiasm in them. The woman in the pictures was young enough to be their daughter, all bleached hair and cheap jewelry, with tattoos creeping up her wrists like vines. But it was the financial discussions that transformed Millie's nausea into something harder, sharper. Text after text about money transfers. Gene promising to help with credit card bills. Mentions of amounts that matched exactly with the mysterious delays in their joint account.
Baby, you promised the visa would be paid by now. They're calling again.
The contact was saved simply as S. The messages painted a clear picture. Sherry Lynn Chambers, 41 years old, according to her numerous selfies. Unemployed, except for occasional bartending shifts. Living in a rundown apartment complex on the south side that Millie's crews cleaned twice a month.
Handled it, Angel. $3,000 transferred. Had to be creative with the accounting, but anything for my sunshine.
$3,000. Last Tuesday. The same day Millie had noticed a discrepancy in their business equipment fund. The same day Gene had blamed on a banking error that would surely sort itself out. She scrolled through more messages, each one adding another layer to the betrayal. Gene promising Sherry a new life. Sherry pushing for more money, faster. Plans to wait until after the holidays, after Millie had done all the cooking and hosting, to announce he wanted a divorce. Comments about Millie that cut deep. The old ball and chain. She's gotten so boring. All she cares about is that stupid cleaning business. That stupid cleaning business that had paid their mortgage. That stupid cleaning business that had supplemented Jean's modest city salary for 2 decades. That stupid cleaning business that was supposed to be their retirement security. Millie carefully photographed each screen with her own phone, her mind already shifting from hurt to something more practical, more dangerous. She'd built Millie's Maids by understanding one fundamental truth. Everyone had dirt, and someone had to clean it up. But she'd learned something else, too. Sometimes the best way to clean wasn't to scrub it away, but to expose it to the harsh light of day. She returned the burner phone to exactly where she'd found it, smoothing the dust to hide her discovery. Back in the house, she stood over Gene's sleeping form. His mouth hung open, a thin line of drool catching the television's blue light. This man who she'd trusted with everything. This coward who couldn't even end their marriage honestly. The smart thing would be to call a lawyer tomorrow, file for divorce, protect her assets, take her half, and rebuild. But as she watched him sleep, remembering all those nights she'd come home exhausted from building her business while he watched television, she knew that wasn't enough. Not nearly enough. Sherry Lynn Chambers wanted Jean's money. Money that was really Millie's money, earned through her sweat and sacrifice. The girl was impatient, greedy, constantly pushing for more, according to those texts. And Jean, pathetic Jean, was too weak to see he was being played by someone half his age with a quarter of his intelligence. Millie walked to her home office, a converted bedroom where she managed the business she'd built from nothing. The wall was covered with certificates, licenses, photos of her crews, testimonials from satisfied clients. 23 employees depended on her. Good, hard-working people who trusted her to keep the business running, to keep their jobs secure. She opened her laptop and pulled up the employee files. They were always hiring. The work was hard, unglamorous, the kind of job people took when they were desperate. The kind of job someone drowning in credit card debt might consider. The kind of job where she could control every detail of someone's working life, completely legally, completely above board. A plan began to form, precise as a cleaning schedule. She wouldn't just expose the affair. She would orchestrate something far more satisfying. She would give Sherry exactly what she thought she wanted, proximity to the Miller money, but not in any way the girl could imagine. Tomorrow, she would begin. First, she needed to confirm her suspicions, document everything properly. She needed an ally, someone she could trust absolutely. Ray Torres came to mind immediately. 60 years old, her most reliable driver, a man who'd been with her for 15 years and had never once betrayed a confidence. Ray, who'd been a mechanic before joining her company, who still had connections and skills that might prove useful. But tonight, she would do what she'd always done when faced with a crisis. She would plan. She would prepare. And she would remember that the best revenge wasn't quick or hot-blooded. It was cold, calculated, and thorough, just like the deep, clean services that had built her reputation. From the living room, Gene's snoring continued, blissfully unaware that his carefully constructed deception was about to collapse. But not tomorrow. Not next week. Millie would take her time, because when you'd spent your life cleaning up other people's messes, you learned that the most stubborn stains required patience, the right tools, and a methodical approach. She looked at the business card tacked to her bulletin board. Millie's Maids, we don't just clean, we restore. Soon she would restore balance to her life. And Sherry Lynn Chambers would learn what happened when you tried to steal from a woman who'd spent 40 years perfecting the art of making things spotless. The washing machine in the basement clicked off, its cycle complete. In the silence that followed, Millie smiled for the first time that night. It wasn't a pleasant smile. It was the smile of someone who'd just realized that the game wasn't over. It had just begun. And she held all the cards. This Tuesday morning found her at the Millie's Maids warehouse on Industrial Boulevard, a converted strip mall unit that smelled perpetually of lemon disinfectant and commercial-grade floor wax. Ray Torres was already there, his reliable presence a comfort as he checked the equipment in the supply room, his movements methodical and precise despite his 60 years.
Ray, could you come to my office? I need to discuss something sensitive.
Ray looked up, his weathered face creasing with concern. In 15 years of working together, Millie had never used that particular tone with him.
Everything all right, Mrs. M?
She waited until he was seated across from her desk, the door firmly closed, before sliding a folder across to him. Inside were printed screenshots from Jean's burner phone, carefully edited to exclude the most explicit images, but keeping the financial evidence intact. Ray's expression darkened as he read, his jaw tightening with each page. When he finally looked up, his voice was carefully controlled, that deep, warm tone now edged with anger.
That son of a... Excuse me, Mrs. M. How long has this been going on?
Best I can tell, about 8 months. The money theft started 3 months ago. Small amounts at first, then escalating. He's taken nearly $12,000 from our equipment fund.
You calling a lawyer?
Eventually. But first, I need your help with something. You still have that GPS tracker from when we were monitoring the delivery routes?
A slow understanding crossed Ray's face, followed by the ghost of a smile.
The one we used to catch Thompson's skimming deliveries? Sure do. Magnetic mount, battery lasts 2 weeks, sends updates to your phone. You thinking what I'm thinking?
Gene's truck needs an oil change. He mentioned it yesterday. Thought maybe you could offer to take care of it for him, neighbor to neighbor. While you're under there.
Consider it done. But Mrs. M, are you sure about this? Going down this road instead of just divorcing him?
Millie stood and walked to the window overlooking the warehouse floor, where her employees were loading vans for the day's routes. Maria Gonzalez was training a new hire, demonstrating the proper way to load supplies to prevent damage. These people depended on her, on this business.
That woman, Sherry Chambers, she lives at Riverside Apartments. We clean their common areas twice a month. She's been pushing Gene for more money, faster. Wants him to liquidate his pension, sell the house. She's not going to stop until she's bled him dry, and that means bleeding me dry.
So what's the plan?
I'm going to offer her a job.
Ray's eyebrows shot up, but before he could speak, Millie continued.
Not directly, through a placement agency, anonymous, the kind of job someone desperate for money can't refuse, the kind where I control every aspect of her working day.
That's playing with fire, Mrs. M.
Fire's already burning, Ray. I'm just going to direct where it spreads.
That afternoon, while Gene was at his consulting meeting, which the GPS tracker would later confirm was actually at Sherry's apartment, Millie created a new email account under the name of a fictitious staffing agency. She crafted the job posting with surgical precision. Industrial cleaning specialist needed. Immediate start. Competitive pay. Benefits after 90 days. The requirements were specific enough to match Sherry's limited qualifications perfectly. High school diploma, able to lift 50 pounds, flexible schedule, no experience necessary but must be trainable. The pay was just high enough to be irresistible to someone drowning in debt, just low enough to be believable for the actual work involved. She posted it on 3 job boards, but more importantly, she used a targeted social media ad service to push it directly to users in Sherry's demographic and geographic area who had recently searched for quick cash, debt relief, and immediate hire jobs. 2 days later, the GPS tracker proved invaluable. Gene's Thursday golf game took him directly to Sherry's apartment, where he stayed for 3 hours. Millie watched the dot on her phone, sitting stationary at Riverside Apartments, while she attended a Chamber of Commerce luncheon, smiling and networking as if her world wasn't crumbling. That evening, she reviewed the security footage from the Riverside Apartments cleaning. There was Sherry stumbling in at 2 in the afternoon, wearing last night's clothes, her too bright blonde hair tangled, those distinctive wrist tattoos visible as she fumbled with her keys. The woman looked haggard, stressed, desperate. Perfect. The job application came in Friday morning, submitted at 3:47 a.m., the desperate hour when insomniacs faced their demons. Sherry Lynn Chambers, claiming 2 years of customer service experience at a bar that had closed 6 months ago. References that were obviously friends. An address at Riverside Apartments, Unit 23B. A Gmail account with a username that included SexyKitten2000. Millie scheduled the interview for Monday, sending the email from her staffing agency account. The interview would be conducted by Patricia Williams, a name as forgettable as it was fake. Millie had even purchased a cheap wig and reading glasses from a costume shop just in case video was requested. Sunday evening, as she prepared dinner, Jean's favorite pot roast, because maintaining normalcy was crucial, her husband seemed particularly nervous. He cleared his throat repeatedly, pushed food around his plate, checked his personal phone every few minutes.
Millie, I've been thinking about the business. Maybe it's time you hired some new people. You're always saying you're short-staffed.
Interesting. Had Sherry mentioned applying for a cleaning job? No, impossible. The posting had been too generic, the company name fictitious.
Actually, I've got interviews lined up this week. Few promising candidates.
Oh, what kind of positions?
Entry-level, industrial cleaning, the dirty work nobody wants to do. You know, the stuff that actually pays the bills.
She watched his face carefully. A flicker of something, relief, disappointment. He returned to his pot roast without comment. Monday's interview was conducted over phone, Millie affecting a slight nasal tone, playing the bored HR representative, just trying to fill positions. Sherry's desperation bled through every word.
I'm very reliable, very hardworking. I can start immediately, like tomorrow if needed.
Her voice was exactly as Millie had imagined. High, artificially sweet, with that forced casualness of someone trying too hard to sound young.
The work is primarily industrial cleaning. Factories, warehouses, some municipal buildings. It involves sanitizing equipment, deep cleaning of facilities, including restroom facilities, waste management. Are you comfortable with that?
Oh, absolutely. I'm not afraid of getting my hands dirty.
The irony of that statement wasn't lost on Millie.
The position requires a uniform, which must be worn at all times during work hours. Company policy is strict about appearance standards. Is that acceptable?
Sure, whatever you need.
Excellent. You'll be working for Millie's Maids, reporting to the main warehouse on Industrial Boulevard. Your supervisor will be Maria Gonzalez. Starting pay is $15 an hour, overtime available. Can you start Wednesday?
Millie's Maids? I've heard of them. They're legit, right? I mean, this is all above board?
Completely legitimate. Family-owned business, operating for over 20 years. You can verify our business license online.
There was a pause. Then Sherry's voice came back, tinged with something Millie couldn't quite identify.
Wednesday's perfect. Thank you so much for this opportunity.
After ending the call, Millie sat back in her office chair, staring at the photo on her desk. Her and Jean at their 25th anniversary. Both smiling, both lying even then, probably. She'd been thinking about expanding the business while he'd been thinking about, what? Younger women? Lost youth? Some pathetic midlife crisis? Ray knocked and entered, his expression concerned.
She take the bait?
Wednesday morning, she reports for orientation. Maria will handle the training. I've told Maria she's a placement agency hire, probationary period, needs close supervision.
And Maria doesn't know?
Nobody knows except you and me, and it stays that way.
Mrs. M, I got to ask, what's the end game here? You can't just have your husband's mistress working for you indefinitely.
Millie pulled out a calendar, circling a date 6 weeks away.
The City Water Department Retirement Gala, December 1st. Gene's being honored for his 40 years of service. Everyone he's ever worked with will be there. His reputation, his legacy, it all culminates in that moment.
You're going to expose them there?
I'm going to give them enough rope to hang themselves. Sherry's already pushing for more money. Once she's desperate enough from the work, she'll push harder. And Jean, weak, pathetic Jean, will make a mistake. They always do when pressure's applied.
That evening, as Millie prepared for bed, she heard Jean on his phone in the garage, voice low but urgent. She crept closer, catching fragments.
Can't be a coincidence. Millie's Maids. Told you to be careful. Few more weeks.
So he knew. Or suspected. Good. Let him sweat. Let him wonder. Let him feel just a fraction of the uncertainty she'd felt finding that burner phone. She returned to the bedroom, picking up her own phone to review the GPS data from the day. Jean's truck had made an unexpected stop at an ATM on the south side. Another withdrawal, probably. More of their money flowing to Sherry's debts. Wednesday couldn't come soon enough. The woman who thought she could steal Millie's life was about to learn what it really meant to work for a living. And Millie would be watching every moment, legally, ethically, Through the security cameras that monitored every inch of her warehouse and work sites, the washing machine in the basement kicked on, Gene doing his own laundry again. Another sign of his guilt, as if washing his clothes could wash away his sins. Millie smiled in the darkness. She'd built her empire on the principle that every stain could be removed with the right approach. But sometimes, she thought, the best strategy wasn't to clean the stain. Sometimes you needed to let it set, let it spread, let everyone see exactly how dirty things had become. Then, when the moment was right, you revealed it to the world in all its ugly truth. 2 days until Sherry Chambers walked into her web. 6 weeks until the gala. Millie had waited 37 years to discover her husband's true nature. She could wait a little longer for her revenge. Maria Gonzalez, the floor supervisor, met her at the door. Maria was 53, built solid from 20 years of manual labor, with kind eyes that missed nothing. She looked Sherry up and down with the expression of someone who'd seen 100 girls like her come through these doors, most lasting less than a week.
You're the placement agency hire, Sherry?
That's me, ready to work.
That high-pitched enthusiasm would be gone within the hour, Millie knew, watching from her office through the security monitor. She'd arrived at 5:30, ostensibly to catch up on paperwork, but really to witness every moment of Sherry's introduction to reality.
Follow me. First thing you need to change. Uniforms are mandatory, no exceptions.
The uniform was deliberately chosen from the rejected samples bin, bright yellow with reflective strips, 2 sizes too large, with probationary stamped across the back in bold letters. The pants were a nauseating green that clashed violently with the yellow. No one else wore anything remotely similar. The regular crew wore respectable navy blue.
Do you have anything that fits better?
Company policy, probationary employees wear what we assign. You got a problem with that?
Sherry's face flushed, but she took the uniform. When she emerged from the changing room, she looked like a hazard cone that had mated with a traffic light. The other employees tried not to stare, but a few snickers escaped. Millie felt a cold satisfaction seeing the woman who'd been sending her husband lingerie photos reduced to this.
Your first assignment is the Metro Transit Building, public restrooms, all 15 of them, then the bus depot. Jorge will drive you.
The Metro Transit Building was notorious among the crew. It serviced hundreds of people daily, many of them homeless, and the restrooms were a nightmare of human waste, drug paraphernalia, and occasionally blood. It was where they sent new hires to test their commitment. Most didn't make it past lunch. Millie switched camera feeds to the body cam all drivers wore, for insurance purposes, officially. She watched as Sherry was handed a cart loaded with industrial cleaners, thick rubber gloves that reached her elbows, and a face shield.
A face shield? Is that really necessary?
You'll see.
The first restroom made Sherry gag. The second made her vomit. By the third, she was crying, those carefully applied false eyelashes running in black streams down her cheeks. But she couldn't quit. Not with $5,000 in credit card debt and rent due in 3 days. Meanwhile, Gene was having his own difficult morning. He'd come home from his consulting to find Millie in the kitchen, calmly reviewing employee files.
New hires.
Just one so far, agency placement. Girl seems desperate enough to stick it out.
She watched his face carefully, saw the moment of recognition, quickly suppressed.
What's her name?
Why do you care?
Too sharp, she softened her tone.
Sorry, just stressed. Her name's Sherry something. Chambers, I think. Why?
No reason, just that name sounds familiar. Maybe from the water department. We dealt with a lot of people.
His throat clearing had intensified to roughly every 30 seconds. Millie returned to her files, pretending not to notice as he excused himself to the garage, probably to warn his mistress. But Sherry was 30 miles away, phone locked in the employee break room per company policy, scrubbing feces off bathroom walls while Jorge stood outside, smoking and timing her breaks to the second. By lunch, Sherry had cleaned 7 restrooms. Her uniform was soaked with sweat and splattered with things best not identified. Her manicured nails were broken, her hands raw despite the gloves. She sat in the van, unable to eat the sandwich she'd brought, just staring at nothing.
Gets easier, or you get used to it. Same thing, maybe.
How long have you worked here?
8 years. It's good work. Honest. Mrs. Miller, she takes care of us. Good benefits, bonuses at Christmas. My kids got college funds because of this job.
Sherry said nothing, but Millie could see her doing the math. 8 years of this versus whatever fairy tale Gene had been selling her about his pension and their future together. The afternoon brought the bus depot, where Sherry encountered her first biological incident. Someone had explosive diarrhea that had somehow reached the ceiling. Maria had specifically assigned this task, following Millie's precise instructions to give the new hire comprehensive experience. Back at the office, Ray knocked and entered, his expression troubled.
She's struggling bad. Mrs. M. Jorge says she's been crying for the last hour.
She applied for the job. She's getting paid. Everything is completely legal and above board.
Legal doesn't mean right.
Millie turned from the monitor to face him fully.
You know what's not right? Stealing $12,000 from a business that employs 23 people? Destroying a 37-year marriage for some midlife crisis? Planning to drain a pension that took 40 years to build?
I'm not defending her, Mrs. M. I'm worried about you. This anger, this revenge, it's changing you.
No, Ray, it's revealing me. I spent 37 years being the good wife, the understanding woman, the one who forgives and forgets. Where did that get me?
Ray had no answer for that. At 3 p.m., Sherry's breaking point arrived. Assigned to clean the industrial kitchen at a homeless shelter, another nightmare of grease, rotting food, and roaches. She threw down her mop and stormed to the van.
I need to make a call. Emergency.
Company policy, no phones during work hours.
I don't care about company policy. I need to talk to someone.
You walk off this job, you don't get paid. Simple as that.
She stood there, shaking with rage and exhaustion, her ridiculous uniform making her look like a defeated mascot. Finally, she picked up the mop and went back inside. She needed the money too much to quit. That evening, Millie was preparing dinner when Gene came home, his agitation visible from across the room. He went straight to the liquor cabinet, pouring himself a bourbon, something he rarely did.
How was your day?
Productive. The new hire is working out. She managed a full shift, which is more than most.
You met her, personally?
No, Maria handles the probationary employees. I might meet her at the Christmas party if she lasts that long. Why are you so interested?
I'm not. Just making conversation.
He drained his bourbon and poured another. His phone, his real phone, buzzed. He glanced at it, then quickly put it away, but not before Millie saw the preview. "Call me now!" 3 exclamation points. Sherry was panicking. Good. Later, while Gene showered, probably washing off the smell of his mistress's apartment, Millie reviewed the day's footage. She paused on a moment when Sherry, thinking she was alone, had slumped against the bathroom wall and sobbed. For just a second, Millie felt something that might have been pity. Then she remembered the text messages. The old ball and chain. "Can't wait until we're free of her. She's so pathetic. Probably hasn't had good sex in years." The pity evaporated. Her phone chimed with a notification from the company's scheduling app. Sherry had already called in sick for tomorrow. Predictable. But she'd be back Friday. The pay period ended Thursday, and she needed that check. They always came back for the check. Millie pulled up Sherry's next assignment. The industrial laundry that serviced the local hospitals. 8 hours of sorting biohazardous materials, dealing with blood, vomit, and worse. She assigned Sherry to the special handling section. The items too contaminated for machine washing. Her phone rang. Ray.
Mrs. M., I just drove past Riverside Apartments. Gene's truck is there.
Let him comfort her. Let her cry on his shoulder about how terrible her new job is. Let him feel guilty about what she's going through for their love. It all serves the plan.
What if she figures it out? What if she realizes you know?
She won't. She's too focused on herself to see the bigger picture. And Gene's too much of a coward to put it together. He suspects, but he won't act on it. That would require confrontation, and Eugene Miller hasn't confronted anything harder than a leaky pipe in 40 years.
After ending the call, Millie sat in her dark office, surrounded by the business she'd built, the life she'd created through sheer will and hard work. In 3 weeks, Phase 2 would begin. She'd already started documenting Sherry's work performance. Every late arrival, every extended break, every complaint. Building a file that would justify what came next. Because the thing about revenge was that it couldn't just be satisfying. It had to be bulletproof, legal, ethical, at least on paper. She wasn't going to destroy Sherry Lynn Chambers through violence or illegal means. She was going to do it through the simple, brutal reality of minimum wage work and the inexorable grind of consequences. The washing machine in the basement started its cycle, the rhythm like a countdown. 3 weeks until the gala. 3 weeks of Sherry scrubbing toilets and sorting medical waste. 3 weeks of Gene watching his mistress transform from sexy barfly to exhausted laborer. And then, when they were both at their breaking point, when desperation made them reckless, Millie would spring the real trap. The one they'd never see coming, because they were too busy looking at each other instead of watching where they stepped. Millie watched through the security feed as Sherry lingered in the supply room after her shift, pretending to organize cleaning supplies while actually casing the lockbox where client payments were stored before bank deposit. 3 checks totaling $8,000 sat inside, payment from the hospital contract that Maria hadn't yet processed. The trap had been meticulously set. Millie had deliberately mentioned the checks during the morning briefing, knowing Sherry was within earshot. She'd even complained about the bank being closed for the holiday weekend, how the money would have to sit in the usual spot until Monday. Then she'd made sure to be visibly absent from the office, supposedly at a client meeting across town. Ray sat beside her in his van, parked strategically where they could see both the front and back exits of the warehouse.
She's really going to do it?
She requested tomorrow off for a family emergency. Jean's been mysteriously busy all day. They're planning to run with whatever she can grab.
On screen, Sherry looked around one more time, then pulled out a bobby pin, such a cliché, and began working on the lockbox. It took her 15 minutes of fumbling, but finally it popped open. She grabbed the checks, stuffed them in her uniform pocket, and relocked the box.
Got her.
But Millie didn't move. Not yet. Let Sherry think she'd succeeded. Let her feel that rush of victory. It would make the fall that much harder. That evening, Gene was practically vibrating with nervous energy. He'd changed his shirt twice, applied cologne, something he hadn't done in years, and kept checking his phone.
The gala's Sunday night. You have your dress ready?
The burgundy one. You always said it was your favorite.
Right. Good. That's you good.
His throat clearing had evolved into a full cough. He poured himself another bourbon, his third since coming home.
Millie, I need to tell you something.
Here it comes, she thought. The confession, the begging for forgiveness, the coward's way out.
I might have to leave the gala early. There's a situation at the water department. Some accounting irregularities they want me to consult on.
Not a confession, another lie. He was planning to leave with Sherry, probably right after his award presentation. Take the money and run while everyone was distracted by speeches and drinks.
That's unfortunate. This is your big night.
Can't be helped. Duty calls, even in retirement.
Saturday morning, Millie made her calls. First to Maria, expressing concern about inventory discrepancies, asking her to check the lockbox. Then to the police, not emergency, just filing a report about suspected theft by an employee. Finally, to her lawyer, putting him on standby. Maria called back within an hour, voice tight with anger.
The checks are gone, Mrs. M. $8,000. The lock was picked.
Check the security footage. Document everything. I want a full report.
By noon, she had everything she needed. Clear video of Sherry stealing the checks, her failed attempt to cash them at a check-cashing store. They'd called to verify, and Millie had told them they were stolen, and most damning footage of her meeting Gene in the parking lot of a motel, handing him the checks. Sunday arrived crisp and bright, unseasonably warm for December 1st. Millie spent the morning at the salon, having her hair styled, her nails done, armor for battle. The burgundy dress fit perfectly, professional yet elegant. The dress of a successful business owner, not a victim. Gene could barely look at her when she emerged from the bedroom.
You look nice.
It's your special night. I wanted to make an effort.
The Cedar Rapids Convention Center had been transformed for the gala. Round tables with white linens, centerpieces of winter flowers, a stage where the awards would be presented. 300 people, city employees, retirees, their families, local politicians, everyone who mattered in their small world. Millie worked the room like the professional she was, shaking hands, exchanging pleasantries, all while keeping one eye on Gene. He was sweating despite the air conditioning, checking his phone every few minutes, scanning the crowd. At 7:45, Sherry arrived. She'd tried to dress up, wearing a tight red dress from a discount store. Those same cheap jewelry pieces. Her hair freshly dyed, but already showing roots. She looked exactly like what she was, desperate and out of place. Gene's face went white when he saw her. This wasn't part of their plan. She was supposed to wait outside, in his truck, ready for their escape. But Sherry, impulsive Sherry, had decided she wanted to see him get his award, wanted to watch the man she thought she'd conquered in his moment of glory. She marched straight to their table, wobbling on 2 high heels.
We need to talk now.
Her voice carried, high and sharp. Heads turned. Gene's former colleagues exchanged glances.
This isn't the time.
The checks bounced. They knew they were stolen. You said you'd handle it. You said you had connections.
More heads turning now. The mayor's wife leaned in to whisper to her husband. The current water department director frowned, moving closer. This was the moment. Millie stood, her voice carrying with the authority of someone who'd commanded employees for decades.
Sherry Lynn Chambers, I'm surprised you have the audacity to show your face here.
The room fell silent. 300 people suddenly focused on their table.
You knew?
I know you stole $8,000 in checks from my business. I know you've been having an affair with my husband for 8 months. And I know you're both about to be arrested.
On cue. Ray had been watching from the lobby. 2 police officers entered the ballroom. Millie had timed it perfectly, right before Gene's award presentation. But she wasn't done. She pulled out her phone, connecting it to the venue's AV system. She'd paid the tech guy $100 to be ready.
Before the officers do their job, I think everyone should see who they've been honoring tonight.
The screens around the room lit up with the security footage. Sherry stealing the checks, meeting Gene in the motel parking lot, Gene taking the stolen checks. Then came the audio. She'd managed to recover 1 voicemail from Gene's burner phone to Sherry. Just take whatever you can, baby. My pension's been frozen because of some audit, but we'll make it work. Millie's too stupid to notice anyway. The gasps from the crowd were audible. Gene's supervisor from the water department stood up, face red with rage. The audit Gene mentioned. That was real. Millie had tipped them off about discrepancies 2 weeks ago.
Millie, please.
40 years of marriage, 23 employees who depend on my business, a reputation built on trust and hard work. You tried to destroy all of it for her?
She gestured at Sherry, who was now crying, mascara streaming, looking nothing like the seductive woman from those photos.
She's been working for me for the past month, cleaning toilets, sorting medical waste, the kind of honest work she thought she was too good for until she got desperate enough to steal.
The police officers moved forward. One approached Sherry.
Ma'am, you're under arrest for felony theft. You have the right to remain silent.
Sherry tried to run, but in those heels, she didn't get far. The tackle was ungraceful, her dress riding up, showing the Walmart underwear underneath. Someone, many someones, had their phones out, recording. The second officer approached Gene, who hadn't moved, hadn't spoken, just sat there like his strings had been cut.
Mr. Miller, you're under arrest for receiving stolen property and suspected embezzlement of city funds.
As they cuffed him, Gene finally looked at Millie, really looked at her for the first time in months.
How long have you known?
Since the beginning. Since you were stupid enough to hide your burner phone in your tackle box. The same tackle box you haven't touched for fishing in 5 years.
Why didn't you just divorce me?
Because you needed to learn what it feels like to lose everything you built. Your reputation, your pension, your dignity. Just like you tried to take mine.
They led him away, past colleagues who wouldn't meet his eyes, past friends who turned their backs, past the stage where his award sat unclaimed and would remain so. The room erupted in chaos. Conversations, phone calls, people rushing to leave or pressing closer for details. But Millie stood calm in the center of it all, the eye of the storm she'd created. Ray appeared at her elbow, steady as always.
You okay, Mrs. M?
Better than okay. I'm free.
The water department director approached, looking deeply embarrassed.
Mrs. Miller, I'm so sorry for what you've endured. If there's anything the department can do...
Just ensure the audit is thorough. I want every penny he stole accounted for.
She picked up her purse, nodded to Ray, and walked out of the ballroom with her head high, leaving the wreckage of her marriage behind. Tomorrow, there would be paperwork, lawyers, dividing assets. But tonight, she'd won. In the parking lot, she could hear sirens as the police cars pulled away with their cargo. Sherry would face serious jail time. Theft over $5,000 was a felony in Iowa. Gene would lose his pension, face his own charges, and never be able to show his face in Cedar Rapids again. And Millie would go on, running her business, taking care of her employees, building the life she deserved. Because that was what she did. She cleaned up messes, no matter how dirty they were. Millie stood in her expanded office, reviewing contracts for 2 new municipal buildings and a hospital wing. The insurance settlement from Gene's theft, combined with the divorce settlement, had provided the capital for the equipment upgrade she'd dreamed of for years. State-of-the-art cleaning systems, new vehicles, better benefits for her employees. Everything she'd worked toward was finally happening.
Mrs. M, you got a visitor. Says it's personal.
Ray's expression was unreadable, which immediately put Millie on alert. In 6 months of working more closely together, he was operations manager now. She'd learned to read his every mood.
Who is it?
Maybe you should just see for yourself.
In the lobby stood a woman Millie barely recognized. Sherry Lynn Chambers had served 3 months in county jail, followed by probation and community service. The bleached blonde hair was now natural brown, pulled back in a simple ponytail. She wore jeans and a plain t-shirt, no jewelry except small stud earrings. She looked older, tired, but somehow more real than she'd ever looked before.
Before you call security, I just need 5 minutes, please.
Her voice had changed too. Gone was the high-pitched artificial sweetness, replaced by something quieter, more measured. Millie studied her for a long moment, then nodded toward her office. Ray started to follow, but Millie waved him off. Whatever this was, she could handle it. Sherry sat across from the desk, where, 7 months ago, she'd been hired under false pretenses. The irony wasn't lost on either of them.
I'm not here to cause trouble. I'm here to apologize and to ask for something I have no right to ask for.
Go on.
I need a job, a real job, not because I'm trying to run some angle, but because I actually need to work. My probation officer says stable employment is required, and no one will hire me with a felony theft conviction, especially not theft from an employer.
Millie laughed, short and sharp.
You're asking me for a job after everything?
I'm asking for a chance to earn a job. I'll start at the bottom, lower than before. I'll clean those bus station bathrooms every day if that's what it takes. I know what real work is now. Jail was educational.
She paused, seeming to gather courage.
Gene's gone, if you're wondering. Left the state after his plea deal. He's in Florida, living with his sister, working under the table at some marina. He never once visited me in jail, never wrote, never put money on my books. The moment things got hard, he disappeared.
And you're surprised by that?
No, you knew what he was from the beginning. A coward. I was just too stupid to see it. Too desperate for someone to save me instead of saving myself.
There was something in her voice, a recognition of hard truth that Millie knew well. It was the sound of someone who'd hit bottom and was trying to climb back up.
Why should I trust you?
You shouldn't, but you could verify. Random drug tests, GPS monitoring, whatever you need. I'm in therapy, court-ordered, but I'm actually going. I'm working the program. I'm trying to become someone different than the person who thought stealing from you was acceptable.
Millie walked to the window, watching her crews load up for the day. Maria was training another new hire, patient as always. Jorge was checking equipment. Good people who'd never betrayed her trust.
I built this business on second chances. Half my employees have records of some kind, but they earned their place before they got it.
Tell me how to earn it.
Millie turned back, decision made.
3 months volunteer work. You'll clean the women's shelter downtown, the one that helped you after jail. No pay, just proving you can show up. After that, if Sister Catherine gives you a good reference, we'll talk about probationary employment. Real probation, 1 strike, and you're gone forever.
Thank you. I won't.
Don't thank me yet. The work will be hard, the pay minimal, and everyone here knows what you did. It won't be pleasant.
Pleasant is what got me into trouble. I think I need difficult.
After Sherry left, Ray knocked and entered.
You really going to give her another chance?
Maybe. People change, Ray. I did.
You didn't change, Mrs. M. You just finally showed who you really were. Strong.
That evening, Millie walked through her empty house. She'd kept it in the divorce, though she'd redecorated everything, erasing Gene's presence. The washing machine in the basement hummed its familiar rhythm, but now it was just background noise, not a countdown to anything. Her phone rang, an unknown number, but she recognized the Florida area code.
Millie, it's me. Don't hang up.
His voice sounded old, defeated. The confident water department supervisor was gone, replaced by something hollow.
I heard about the business doing well. That's good. You deserve it.
What do you want, Gene?
Nothing. I wanted to say I'm sorry. I know it doesn't mean anything now, but I am. 40 years, and I threw it away for nothing. She was using me, and I was too stupid and vain to see it.
You were using her too. For youth, for excitement, for feeling important again. You just didn't expect her to be better at the game than you.
You're right. You were always smarter than me. I just never appreciated it.
There was a long pause. In the background, she could hear seagulls, waves. He was probably at the marina where he worked. The retirement dream turned into minimum wage survival.
Are you happy now?
Millie considered the question. Her business was thriving. She had good friends, loyal employees, respect in the community. She'd discovered strength she didn't know she possessed.
I'm free, Gene. That's better than happy.
She hung up without saying goodbye. There was nothing left to say to the stranger he'd revealed himself to be. The next morning brought a new contract, the biggest in company history. The regional airport, all terminals and administrative buildings. It would mean hiring 10 new people, buying more equipment, expanding again. Ray was already running numbers, Maria planning training schedules. At the celebration lunch, surrounded by her employees, Millie raised her glass of sparkling cider.
To Millie's Maids. We started with nothing but determination and a bucket of cleaning supplies. Today, we're the premier cleaning service in Cedar Rapids. But more than that, we're a family that supports each other, that gives second chances when they're earned, that knows the value of hard work and honest living.
The cheer that went up could probably be heard at the water department offices across town. Millie smiled, a real smile, not the calculated expression of revenge or the mask of a betrayed wife. This was joy, earned and genuine. 3 months later, Sherry started her first official day as a probationary employee. She wore the standard Navy uniform now, no special markings, though everyone knew her story. She worked harder than anyone, arrived early, stayed late, took the worst assignments without complaint. Slowly, very slowly, she was earning her place, and Millie watched it all from her office, the queen of an empire built on soap and determination. She'd learned that revenge, while satisfying, was just the beginning. The real victory was in what you built afterward, in rising from the ashes of betrayal stronger and more successful than before. 1 year after the gala, Millie stood in her new house, a beautiful craftsman she'd bought with cash, no mortgage, no shared deed. The business had grown to 40 employees, 5 contracts with major facilities, and a reputation that extended throughout the state. Ray was her business partner now, his loyalty rewarded with shares in the company. Maria ran operations with military precision. Even Sherry, still there, still working, had been promoted to team leader. Her past a reminder, but not a definition. The washing machine in her new laundry room was state-of-the-art, whisper quiet, efficient. But sometimes, late at night, Millie missed the old rhythm, the mechanical heartbeat that had accompanied her transformation. It reminded her that even the most ordinary sounds could be the soundtrack to extraordinary change. Her phone buzzed with a text from Ray. New contract possibility, state government building. They specifically requested you handle the presentation. She smiled, gathering her materials. There was work to do, deals to close, an empire to expand. The girl who'd started cleaning houses to make ends meet was gone, replaced by a woman who understood that true power came not from who you married or what they gave you, but from what you built with your own hands.
They tried to take my retirement, my home, my peace, but they forgot one thing. No one knows where the dirt is hidden better than the woman who cleans it up. And I always, always get my deposit back.
The autumn sun set over Cedar Rapids, painting the sky the color of her revenge dress, the burgundy of blood and wine and victory. Somewhere in Florida, an old man worked on boats he'd never sail. Somewhere in town, a woman who'd learned the hard way was scrubbing floors and rebuilding her life. And in her office, surrounded by the proof of her success, Mildred Miller prepared for another negotiation, another victory, another day of building her empire, one cleaned surface at a time. Because in the end, the best revenge wasn't just destroying those who wronged you. It was becoming so successful, so untouchable, that their betrayal became nothing more than a footnote in your rise to power. And Millie had risen indeed, higher than Jean or Sherry, or even she herself had ever imagined possible. The cleaning lady had become the queen, and her kingdom was spotless.
Thank you for listening to this complete audiobook story. If you enjoyed this journey, found meaning in her triumph over betrayal, please consider subscribing to our channel for more captivating audiobook experiences. Your likes help us reach more listeners who appreciate quality storytelling, and we'd love to hear your thoughts in the comments below. Which moment resonated with you most? Share your interpretations and experiences with our amazing community of audiobook lovers. Don't forget to hit the notification bell so you never miss our next emotional, gripping story. Until next time, keep listening, keep feeling, and keep discovering amazing stories. Thank you for being part of our audiobook family.